the one of the matches that people talk a lot about that Ivory was involved in was her versus Lita, where Lita got that cut and like she had the crimson mask. Um, and it was when she was right to censor Ivory, I think, that happened. But Ivory thought it was great. She was like, "Oh yeah, blood. People are going to like really talk about this. This is great." That was not the feeling in the back. Although Ivory's right. Like as soon as that like I remember it exactly because you never saw blood in a women's match. Even today, like that match with Ruby Soho and she probably needed like a blood transfusion after that.
The on the mat, like
Yeah,
even not even
just
just her face, like on the mat.
Matt. Yeah.
Holy shit!
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Blech. Um, I've heard of the women. I've heard Ivory talk poorly about very few. I will say Lita was one of the few women she had anything negative to say. She said that Lita wasn't so giving in the ring. Like she had her spots, she wanted to do her spots, and she was not willing to work with you. You couldn't, and she said there was no calling anything in the ring. And she was like, to be fair, it was rare that you got two women in the ring that were good enough where you could kind of do that.
mhm.
Like everything had to be rehearsed beforehand, which was not surprising. But yeah, that was like the worst thing she had to say about any of the women wrestlers, that like Lita wasn't so giving. Um JR, when talking about that match, said Lita was green as grass, and like it took Ivory's the reason that it went so well, specifically after the injury, because she needed to carry Lita through it at that point since she was the veteran. Ivory also did say that, Molly Holly was her favorite person to work with. Not surprising. That is a very common thing. Everyone loved working with Molly. And she said after a match, Molly would be like, what can I do to improve? Like, how can I, you know, do things better? Like, she was all about that. She was a student of the game, as one Triple H might say.
Yeah, no one really ever has a bad thing to say about Molly Holly, do they?
No. And honestly, if you're saying something bad about Molly Holly, you should be burned at the stake.